right, so we finished the finale. See the end credits rolling. I'm literally like emotional after hearing Hopper's speech. I'm getting ready to go to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden I'm like, post-credit scene! And then I wrote this name down, Kamchatka, Russia.
Yeah.
Right? That's what pops up on the bottom.
Never
and then
been.
We see a prison.
It was always my favorite country on a Risk board, just because it was fun to say. You guys ever play Risk?
Russia?
I know
Board
what Risk
game?
is. I never played with the Axis powers and the
Kamchatka
Allies.
was
I did not
upper right
know
hand
that.
corner of the Risk board. Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. Okay, well, anyways.
It's the only reason I know where it is on the planet.
That's amazing.
Could have been fake.
That's
all
where
I
the
know.
post-credit scene takes place,
Yeah.
and quite revealing. So, what were your guys' thoughts about it?
I mean,
A lot happened.
my one thought was like, the Russians again?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I like the Russians. Don't get me wrong. Like,
If we're gonna make an '80s nostalgia play, like
my guy Grigori,
straight up evil Russians.
Yeah,
is
my
the
guy
way to do it.
Grigori looked just like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator. I mean, he was great. I like the Russians, but they're still going with the Russians. Like, I don't know. They could go somewhere else in the world. But it was interesting though, of course, with I think the quote everybody's going to keep remembering is like, the American. No, not the American. Get this guy.
Yeah, so
It's
they go down to the depths of this base. There's all of these prison cells. One of the Russians starts to open one. He's like, no, not the American. Get the next one. They go to the next door. They drag this guy out of his cell, and then they feed him to a Demogorgon. Right?
Yeah, they have a Demogorgon.
And
Yeah.
it looked a little different from the other. It stood a little more upright.
Yeah.
And it was kind of gray and slimy. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's because it
The
wasn't
special
getting enough
effects
sun
are better,
down
right,
there.
yeah.
Special
effects
effects
are
are
so
better, yeah.
good. Yeah.
But so they're feeding a Demogorgon down there. So
Yeah.
which is what it shows that the Russians are into the Upside Down.
And they have
And-
they've gotten in there,
And
I
they have-
guess.
they've gotten in there.
Yeah.
They've brought something back with
Right,
them. Of course, when the kids were all underground, they came across this cage kind of halfway through the
Remember
season.
Erica asked,
Is it about
how big?
that
Yeah, but that
big?
big 9 feet is like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So clearly the Russians have made it in there.
Right.
They pulled something back out. But yeah, like you said, not the American. Who's the American that they have? Keep in mind, this post-credit scene theoretically ought to take place 3 months after the fight at the mall.
It's Papa.
right?
Yeah.
It's 11th Papa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Scientist Papa.
You think
Yeah.
it's Matthew Modine? From
It's
the first
Matthew
season?
Modine from the
Dr.
first. Because I think
Brenner?
we got a confirmation
Brenner.
in season 2 that he was indeed alive, according to, remember when she went
Yeah,
to
they
go
yelled it.
kill the guy, and then
security guard
the
or
security
whatever,
guard. So it's probably him. If I had to take a guess, that's my first guess. I don't think it's Hopper.
You think it's Hopper?
I don't think it's Hop.
How did they get Dr. Brenner then, though?
The Russians.
Well, the last time we saw
I'm
Dr.
just
Brenner,
like-
No, I don't know.
the last time we saw Dr. Brenner, he's getting dragged away by a Demogorgon. So like maybe
And
it's
maybe
his
got taken to
Demogorgon.
the
Maybe they
upside
found them both.
down.
Maybe they found a way to
Yeah,
control
I
the
don't know.
Demogorgon?
Yeah,
Who knows?
I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe it's Sean Astin.
Bob Newby's
Bob
still
Newby.
alive. Bob Newby is still kicking.
Oh my
Pretty
gosh.
sure that's of the three names that we've mentioned. He's a distant third
Poor
at this
Bob.
point.
I
Poor Bob.
thought, could it potentially be Hopper?
I don't think.
That's the thing. Like maybe he did instead of dying.
Or maybe
in the
they pulled him
explosion,
out. They found him.
That's what
They
I
went in
was
there and
jumped
they pulled
into
him out.
the upside
Yeah.
down, and because we know the Russians have
true.
access because they have a
true.
Demogorgon, maybe he was able. They found him and pulled him out, and they've been keeping him prisoner.
Yeah. I'm going to put my money on that one.
You think it's Hopper?
I think it's Hopper.
How does
I would
Hopper
say-
get back from Russia to Indiana during the Cold War? How does that work?
Yeah.
That they need like a whole season for
That's
that.
a season. Yeah, a season that's just him in Kamchatka, the Kamchatka wilderness.
Stranger Things: Kamchatka.
Kamchatka.
Oh, man.
I'm into it. There's a nice Chernobyl crossover
Well,
we
I
can
think,
do too.
and I know this is going a little bit of a side note, but I mean, again, I do that a lot. But with this season, one thing I realized that the show's getting big. You know, the ensemble's growing. I feel like Nancy and Jonathan and their Sherlock and Watson routine, I don't really care about. There's just too many characters. Like Game of Thrones has that same problem where they can't spend enough time with everybody, give them the proper attention. So I feel like this show could use a spinoff. Not Kamchatka, not colon, not a whole year.
Right.
Kamchatka, would that be the name of the show?
not a whole year of
Stranger
Hopper in
Things
prison.
nights.
But I feel like the show could use a spin-off or maybe even like a little like 2 or 3 episode side story.
Or
you
just
know,
do
with
a
some
season that's
characters.
somewhere else. You
True.
know? I mean,
Yeah. They can move around. It's a big enough
honestly,
universe.
I always thought Stranger Things would be best as an anthology. I really did. Like frankly, I got the season 2 and 3 have been fun, but I got everything I need out of these characters and out of this story in the first season. And I was really hoping for the second season to just be a completely different, bonkers
That would have been
story.
really cool.
Like, that would have been really
that's
cool.
not a bad idea.
And because I do feel like they're a little stretched right now. So like having having the Russians clear. I think if anything, this post-credit scene really kind of cements the fact that we're not done with the Russians.
Yeah.
Like
Nope.
the Russians
No, yeah, for
are you know,
They'll
are
kick
back
'em.
in style where villains are concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. And didn't Alexei say that they had opened up
They
some
had many
portals?
keys
Yes.
around, but they said because the one in Hawkins had been opened more recently, it was like, he showed it was like softer. It was
Yeah.
easier
Yeah.
to penetrate because it had been opened before. Yeah.
So there is a whole, Russian campaign that we need to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Like, what have they been doing over
Which
there?
makes sense. I mean, Americans and Russians, the Cold War, nuclear
Yeah.
power, like, I get it. They're rivals. So I'm sure, America had their branch in Hawkins, Indiana. Maybe they have other branches. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the way the universe will expand, and
Yeah.
we'll find out more about the Upside Down that way.
So what did you think about that epic post-credit scene? Tell us in the comments section. And for everything Stranger Things, keep it locked in to IGN.